Welcome to the Metropolitan Club. I'm Mindy Wright, a member of CMC's Board of Trustees and Senior Outreach Coordinator at Ohio State. It's great to have such a wonderful group of people here today with sunshine coming in from the windows. Today's forum is the annual Carol McGuire Legacy Forum, with additional support from Dispatch Media Group, Event Marketing Strategies, and Puffin Foundation West. Each are represented here today by many guests and associates, so will you help me thank them? Rarely do social purpose, artistic passion, and innovation move people in ways that astound, let alone change lives. One word, one initiative stands out as a shining example of what is possible when someone and a community work together to make a difference. That word is harmony. We will hear today how the seemingly impossible can be achieved through the collective goodwill of many individuals working together in harmony. So please welcome Executive Director of City Year Columbus, Tasha Booker. Warden of the Ohio Reformatory for Women, Ronnie Burks. Founder and Director of the Harmony Project, David Brown. And our host, journalist Carol Looper. Carol, take it away.
Thanks, Mindy. I'm going to step away from my fair and impartial journalist role today because I am a devoted member and singer in the Harmony Project. I'm not a particularly good singer, but I'm enthusiastic, and David says that matters. There is only one David Brown, and that's too bad. With his wit, talent, compassion, creativity, and charisma, I wish we could clone this man. I believe that we, the members of the Harmony Project, about 700 strong, would follow him anywhere. His outreach to inmates, high school students, elementary school students, and differently abled adults is amazing. You don't have to audition. You don't have to read music. You sing, you serve, and you share. And Ronnie Burks, as the warden of the Ohio Reformatory for Women, you are helping to change the lives of women inside and the opinions people on the outside have about inmates. In a video that I hope you'll talk about, you're hugging the women, you're encouraging them to participate in the Tapestry program, and you're restoring their dignity. When I see your tears on that video, I hope that these women's lives will turn around with your help. And Tasha Booker, you're responsible for the kids, and the kids who sing, and the kids who at young ages are learning what harmony is and what harmony means. And it's not just harmony in song, it's harmony in the lives we live. So let me get started with the question. Tell me about your involvement in Harmony Project and what it means to you in the future of the arts in Columbus. Ronnie?
Well, my involvement in Harmony Project has been through, of course, through my prison, the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville, Ohio. Several years ago, we met this wonderful person that we all know as David Brown, who wanted to do something a little bit different. He wanted to come into our facility and start a choir. And this just wasn't an ordinary choir. It was a choir that that would work with a choir on the outside of Columbus, but a choir that would serve the community, a choir that would learn to love, a choir that would give of themselves and of their hearts. And it was right in line with, I felt like, our mission and everything that we've been trying to do. You know, we work so hard to save the lives of the women that are incarcerated there. And this choir came into our facility, and I can tell you they have rocked our prison, and it has not been the same since. They have brought so much love and compassion to our women at our facility. They have taught them that they are human beings and that they deserve to be loved. They've taught them that that they matter. They taught them that even though they're behind a prison wall or a fence, that they can serve a purpose while serving a sentence. And so Harmony has, and let me tell you what Harmony has taught our staff, because Harmony has taught the correction folks something. It's taught us how to do corrections a little bit differently. It's taught us that the people that we serve, our women who are incarcerated at our facility, that they deserve an opportunity to have a different type of life, and that they can do things a little bit differently behind a prison wall. If you would come to our facility on a Thursday, it's a Wednesday now, isn't it? Wednesday now. Wednesday now, yes, we switched to Wednesdays.
It's just another day of the week.
But if you could come to our facility on a Wednesday and you walk in that unit, every time David and the Harmony Project walks into that unit, they get a standing ovation, because that is the impact that they're having on the lives of our women. Our women have had an opportunity to Skype with children who are living in a hospice place in South Africa, in Bloemfontein, South Africa, called the Sunflower House. And these children are terminally ill. And our women get to sing to them once a month. And that's all happened through Harmony. Our women have connected with the children at South High School through a Skype. And the women are able to touch the lives of other people's children. And that's all happened through Harmony. Our women have had a chance to stand on the stage at the Ohio Theater, stand on the stage of a nationwide arena.
Sing with Melissa Etheridge.
Sing with Melissa Etheridge.
Yeah.
And be on CBS Sunday morning.
Right.
And that's all because of the Harmony Project. But Harmony Project has really taught our women that they matter. And David, I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Ronnie. One of the things that, when you're talking about the Skype between South Africa and the prisons, so what's really kind of amazing to watch happen is because you walk into the room, and yes, they do stand up, they do cheer, they're excited when we get there, not being casual about it, just being real about it. Of course they're excited when we're there. There's not much else going on. For real, in that morning, it's just being real. But when you start to sing and you watch the shoulders lower a couple of inches, you watch the stoic faces, you watch the corners of the mouths start to turn up, you watch the eyes start to fill with water. You see children who 2 years ago on the screen were arms in splints and tubes down throats, and only their eyes were moving while music was happening, and those same children are now 2 years later sitting up and singing back. Then you understand that music is magic. Yes. And when you hear their little voices singing to these women who are separated from their children, and you hear these children hearing voices of mothers and they're orphans, then there is a natural healing that is going on across the planet. Now, there's some scientific stuff about that, which is that when people sing together, our heart rates align, our breathing patterns align, and that our brain waves actually start to kind of become similar to each other. But the fact that that's happening in South Africa and in Marysville at the exact moment, just because some people are singing, the theme from Barney together or whatever they happen to be singing in that moment, the song is irrelevant. It's the sound. It's the resonance between the two that's happening, which is amazing. And you brought up something about South High School. So we've been doing South High School program now for 5.5 years. And Harmony Project gets a lot of credit for that program at South High School. And we'll take it because it's hard work, but at the same time, the real champions of that program, who are there every day in and out to make sure that those students are a part of it, is City Year Columbus. And that's what Tasha does, and just a small part of what Tasha does is take care and make sure that the folks that are in that school are there. So I want to pass it off to you now, and you talk about City Year.
Yeah. So City Year is a national education nonprofit, and we work with students across the country in 28 cities and 2 international affiliates in the UK and South Africa, students who are at risk of dropping out. And in Columbus, just 46% of the schools, 6 schools produce 46% of the students at risk of dropping out right in Columbus. And we happen to be in 4 of those 6 feeder patterns, and South High School being one. So I first came to Harmony Project in my days at United Way, when David shares the story when there were only 300 people in the audience and trying to figure out, what this was going to be at BOMA. Do you remember that?
I do.
The church that's now been converted to a club on Broad Street. And Larry and Donna James approached me to help get one of the affinity groups, Key Club, involved in that work. And we all left like, what in the world? He's crazy. We don't know anything about this in Columbus. And so naturally, about 4 years later, I take over the role with City Year, and South High had Harmony Project. And David and our board chair, we share a board member, Susan Steinman, come to my office telling me about this great idea around making sure that our students had support in after-school space. And since City Year was there, how can we make this partnership work? And as David can, he can sell snow to an Eskimo.
Or Bibles to the devil.
That's
That's
right.
how I like to say. Just a little edgier.
Right.
than
He's
snow.
from the right. David's from the South. We forgive you for that.
And I was there all weekend, so I got a little flavor flowing right now.
So it just naturally made sense that we were already in that after-school space to support that. But what it means, for our students that we're working with students who are struggling academically, behaviorally, and who also has attendance issue. So, David started with maybe 40 kids.
It's about 26 kids.
26 kids, and it has grown to over 100 kids now.
176 enrolled.
Yeah, 176 kids.
Right, Shelby?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Shelby's one of our City Year alum here that now
We
works for
hired a
David.
City Year alum to come work for Harmony
Yeah.
Project. So and we've also hired someone who got out of prison to work in the Harmony offices. So there's this connection thing happening, which is great.
Yeah. So workforce pipeline, you can see me later. But it really gave our students an incentive, right? It's not enough to coach our students around academics, behavior, and attendance. We have to show them that there's something real by doing what's right. And what Harmony Project does is really connect that, your positive behavior gets better results than when you're acting out, right? And so to see these students, to the point of singing in harmony together, they're breaking down barriers. You have upperclassmen with the freshmen singing together, actually being mentors, right? So that near-peer mentoring is happening there.
And the jocks with the nerds. And
Yes, yes.
No, but all these, they're horrible labels, but it's just real. I mean, to see those kids be together, that's what we're trying to do.
Right. And so you're bringing together groups of people in a school who would otherwise not interact. You remember how it was to be a freshman or, to be a senior. You didn't fool with the freshmen. You were done with school. And you really see them coaching and uplifting each other. And then at the end of that, they get a summer trip, a spring trip. And I happened to chaperone. Remember that? New Orleans.
Yeah.
And what did you call it? Fritos and Funyuns on the bus?
No, Sin and Funyuns.
Sin and Funyuns
Yeah.
on the bus. But, and that year we went to New Orleans and Alabama and Nashville. But to see the excitement in those students' eyes, you're talking about students who've never left the south side of Columbus. I know that's hard for many of us to fathom, but Harmony Project is doing that through the generous support of the donors and sponsors, affords the opportunity for 100 plus of our students who actually have to have the grades, the attendance, the behavior, the attitude to, one, continue to sing in the choir, but also be able to go on a trip and expose them to another culture. And they actually seen French Quarter, got to sing in the middle of French Quarter and do some service projects there, really connecting them outside of the city of Columbus. And Harmony Project is responsible for that, so we're always happy to support.
Well, singing and hugging and being together and getting to know people who you would never know in a million years is one of the most exciting things about the Harmony Project. Also, the service. You mentioned the Skyping with the kids in South Africa. And David, there is service element that is key in the Harmony Project. Talk about how that has accomplished things for the community.
Sure. So just a backup story. So in 2005, I had been living in New York for almost 16 years. And 4 years before, 9/11 had happened. And the city changed a lot. I mean, 9/11 affected everybody across the world, but it affected New Yorkers in a very kind of different way because Manhattan's a small town when you live there. And And I had kind of pushed through. September 12th was when I was supposed to start my first choir on my own in New York of 2001. And we still managed to get it off the ground, but 4 years later, I was like, this isn't what I was hoping for. And it wasn't really working because I missed some part of it. Like, it was just about music, and there wasn't a connection that was happening for me. And so I decided, well, I'm going to go to New Orleans. Well, timing, I moved to New Orleans 3 months before Katrina happened. And before you make the joke of, well, where are you going to live now? Trust me, people have made that joke a million times already. I just tell people I survived both, so stay with me, and you'll be fine. But I moved to New Orleans, and with this idea, thinking about, I wanted to do music in a different way. But it was Katrina that changed the way I thought of music. Because it was the days after Katrina when I saw people wanting to help, but they didn't know how. And they wanted to give back, but they were afraid to put a lot of money into some big thing on television because they didn't know if the money was going to actually reach the recipients, if it was going to make a difference. And in '05, quite honestly, the internet was even not what it is today, and we weren't able to just social media our way into solving a problem like we can now. But I got on the phone and started calling friends and said, here are some phone numbers of some places that you can call. If you give them your credit card, then tonight, the cot that you buy, somebody's going to sleep on it tonight. Those diapers that you buy today, somebody's going to have them today for their child. And it was taking that negative thing of instant gratification and kind of turning it on its head a little bit and turning it into a positive. Because we all have a little bit of instant gratificationist stuff going on inside of us. We all like to be, receive something in the moment. But the responses to those phone calls were tremendous. And that's when I started thinking about, well, how can I merge? How can I bring a community of people together who like to sing, who like to do music, but focus them on service? And it was a Bexley boy who started challenging me to think about it differently, Josh Radner, who grew up in Bexley and was out in LA. And I happened to be out there designing his home because, as a gay person, you're either supposed to be able to design furniture or do hair. I didn't get the cosmetology thing down, so, I knew how to move a sofa. So I was designing his home for him. And he started saying to me, you really ought to go to Columbus and try this idea. He was like, it's more diverse than you think. When you lived in Bexley and went to Capitol, you didn't really experience Columbus, like he said, like I didn't in some ways. And so I kept working in LA, but then put this idea together and came out. And one of the first people I met is sitting at the table right here today, Marilyn Brown. And I told her about this idea, and a few other of you that are in the room mentioned it to you. And so we brought these folks together and said, whether or not you can sing is irrelevant. But what you have to do is give back to the community. That's your price tag. I don't mean this in an egotistical way, I'm just very confident that I'm gonna be able to turn you into a spectacular choir. That is second nature. But for you to get that, you're going to have to do this. And that means plant trees, create a garden, serve meals, do whatever. And do it not just as if you would sign up with another nonprofit. Do it with people who maybe vote very differently than you do, or worship very differently than you do, or live very differently than you do. So what makes Harmony Project unique is that we specifically and with intention try to put people together who don't know each other and who would not normally necessarily even be working together. Cross zip codes, cross socioeconomic borders, cross educational backgrounds, because the idea is that the future of any community, the future of Columbus, which is why what we're supposed to be talking about today, is pretty bleak if we're going to be isolated in our own corners and not engaging simply because I voted for her or you voted for him. I mean, we're not going to get anywhere if that's what we do. We're not going to get anywhere if we think that it's our job to convince someone else that our religion is the right one and theirs is the wrong one. If we all appeared before a judge and had to present our case, our case would be dismissed. Faith is something that is believing something that we can't prove anyway. So if religion is going to divide us, then let it keep dividing us. But while it's dividing us in the way we think, we can still build a playground in Fairwood Park because the kids in that neighborhood need a playground. So that was the idea of service, was that We cannot let the things that have always divided us and will continue to divide us stop us from getting things done in the community that need to be done. And to Tasha's point of what she was talking about with South High, and in many ways to the prison as well, but I want to focus on South first, is that so many programs are focused, as we are, on wanting our kids to graduate from high school and then go to college. But that's just not enough. It's not enough anymore. We have to teach them the basics of life, of how to function, of how to interview, of how to make eye contact, of how to engage with people in conversation. We have to give them these tools because they're not getting them because the schools are so overwhelmed and so busy trying to meet certain standards that they have to meet for graduation that the kids are missing out on what it's going to take for them to be productive citizens in our community. The women in the prison, it's the same thing. They're learning how to be clean and they're learning how to manage their own lives. But unless we empower their voices so that when they get out and go right back into the exact same circumstances and families and neighborhoods that they were in before where their problems arose, unless we empower their voices, then they're going to go back and they're going to wind up back in prison again. We have to do things differently because the world is different than it was even 10 years ago, much less 50 years ago. So I don't really have a lot of patience for people who talk about the good old days because I don't know what those were. They weren't when I was growing up, I know that. That was just the 80s. And nowadays you look back and the 80s were supposedly the best time in America. Not for me. So I look at our world and just say the work that we're doing, it's not rocket science and it doesn't need to be lifted up and cheered. It's just what has to happen. We have to be going beyond just graduating from high school, just getting out of prison or getting clean, just taking someone who's differently abled, who's been in the spotlight, been in the shadows, and giving them, a chance to sing on the stage. We have to give people purpose. And if we give purpose to people rather than pity, then we see things change. We see lives change. We see it in our work every single day. Replace pity with purpose.
Will you each share a personal success story that comes out of the project?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for us at City Year, one of the things we encourage is going to college, but also instilling, to David's point, instilling hope that you can achieve. Your circumstances should not define, where you start should not define where you finish. And the one story that stands out to me is when we were on the New Orleans trip, the kid who was playing basketball and he was the jock and he was pretty popular, you know who I'm talking about. He was also the troublemaker. The next year was his senior year. He was a junior at the time. His next year was the senior year. And I didn't think the kids, remembered, me, but my son, who also thinks he's a teenager at 10, they remembered me only because of my son. He comes flying up to me and tells me he got accepted to college. And just to see this kid who, was grades were failing from 9th grade, attendance, was the class clown, bit of a school troublemaker, to see him so excited about just getting that acceptance letter. And I think he, you know which one I'm talking about. I think he carried that letter in his book bag every day. That's what you want to happen, right? To see that hard work, pays off. And also knowing that for him and in many of our schools, our students, they read, right? They Google, they see the labels we've given them. They see the reports that's out there about, their plight or their lot in life. And so we have to change that narrative. And, what we were able to do was to change, his narrative and to also say that there are people here to help you. Dr. Putnam, who wrote Our Kids, talks about we've got to let go of, self-made men and the bootstrap theory. You didn't, I didn't, and some people just can't. And so what we did with that young man was show him together we're going to help you, achieve and realize your goals in life.
That's right.
When I think about success stories, I can think about several women who have left our facility, and one of them stood on the stage at Nationwide Arena, and she shared with the audience that last year I stood on this stage as an inmate, and this year I stand as a woman who's going home to her children to read books to them tonight. And I think that's amazing. There's so many women out there that Harmony Project has touched. I think about, in particular, a young lady who left our facility, and I think almost the very next week, I was standing next to her in choir practice. So last week, I was her warden, and this week, we're choir members together. And we stood next to each other, and I remember seeing her walk in the room, and I opened my arms because I always open my arms to my women because I love them, but I opened my arms to her because I was so proud. I was so proud to see her standing there. She was sober. She was a Tapestry alum. She's always going to be a Tapestry member, part of that therapeutic community. But she was touched so much by Harmony Project that she, the very next week, was at choir practice. After choir practice, we found out that she had to walk home. And that was, you remember, I came to David in tears because I wasn't allowed to take her back to the facility that she was staying at. And they had rules. They had rules about who could transport her. And you had to be approved. You had to be on this list. And so I remember Harmony Project folks stepping up saying, I'll get signed up so I can take her home next week, and I'll get signed up so I can take her home. And that's what happens. Harmony Project members threw her a housewarming party when she got her first apartment after being released from prison. Those are success stories because it's been almost a year now.
Yeah.
And she still comes back. She's at every choir practice, and she's employed, and she's sober. And that's so important. And so I think about that as a success story, and there's so many other women. There's so many others.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should have put more thought into like this before this moment, so that I could have really thought of the most compelling. But I think what I'm going to do is, at the risk of it being incredibly self-involved, I'll tell you my experience, like the transformation for me personally in watching all this. I'm a little tired and sick, so if I get emotional, that's just what it'll be. But y'all have got tissues, right? Because I've got my tinted moisturizer on, and I'll have streaks on my face if I cry. Clinique number 5. So 4 years ago, in South High Harmony, we took a trip to New York, and there were these 3 boys that hung out together all the time. Their names were Crisbian, Kool-Aid, and Henry. And we have a video where they walk into their hotel room, and the window on the hotel is so, they're overwhelmed looking at Times Square. They're like 17, 27, 190 stories in the air, who knows? It's Manhattan, And they wouldn't even, they were scared to even go near the window. They had never seen anything like this. And as they're walking around in the streets of New York, they're just, their necks are sore from just looking up so much. And these are boys that were just typical boys, They didn't really engage. They can't sing to save their lives. I mean, bad. But we didn't tell them to be quiet. We just let the harmony metaphor work its way out. The stronger voices lift the weaker. But a couple of years ago, one of those 3, Crisbian, called me at midnight and said that one of the other ones was in trouble. And I'm not going to go into all these details, but it was just family sexual dysfunction, immigrants brought over through trauma, all kinds of just drama in their lives, kids not doing well in school, falling apart, family falling apart at the seams. And in the way that our court system sometimes works, I'm not being judgmental, I'm just being observational. When this happens to a young black boy, the first thing that they do is that they put him in juvenile detention. And so he was put in juvenile detention, and he was there for 54 days. Because there was no one to have the fight to know how to get him out. And so that's when you start looking at this community that we have started to develop. And what I did is just started reaching out to all these people in the community, therapists, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, all these folks who say that they believe in this idea of a more balanced community. And so one by one, letters started coming in, and psychologists started stepping up to the plate, and therapists started opening their doors so that the care that needed to be placed around this child, 17 but a child, could be put in place. And 2 years ago in October, we're in court, and the magistrate says, so are you willing, to take him? And I looked at him and was like, do you want to live with me? Not quite sure what that was going to look like. And he was, of course, he said yes. He just wanted a place to be able to have a home. And then his friend Crisbian, who was living on the south side, family squatting in a home with electricity coming from cords from the house next door. Mother packs up one night and moves because she finds another free house. And so he's left in Columbus. And so then Chris says, can I come in too? And they both moved in. And, there were a lot of folks who said, what the hell are you doing? And my response was, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But as Tasha and I have talked on so many occasions, and as Ronnie and I have talked on so many occasions, this is just what we have to do in the line of work that we're in, is that we have to get to saying yes as often as possible, because these boys were going to be in a system, and they were going to age out of the system, and then they were going to be homeless. And then we would have a different panel up here talking about that problem. So if we want to take these problems, these challenges, and we want to kind of minimize them so that we can deal with them, then it's about engaging the entire community in the process and helping the entire community understand that these kids are our kids. And if we want to see them through, then we have to be there. So here's where it gets really weird. So 2.5 years, this journey, and he had some fairly serious charges against him, this young man did. But through working with the family, through processing all the details and finding out what are the sources of all these problems, through the therapeutic care that this community has, through the amazing people that I get to work with every day coming together, this morning, before I came here, we were in court, and everything was dismissed against this young man, and he's able to move forward now. He's got an opportunity now that he didn't have before, not just because I said yes, but because this entire community said yes. Columbus said, okay, this is one at a time. We get overwhelmed because we think, how are we supposed to take care of all these women? How are we supposed to take care of all these students? We can't, but we can break it down. And we can tackle it one kid at a time, one woman at a time, one student at a time, and we can bring our community together. That's what harmony is. Harmony's not about music. Harmony's about balance and about understanding that we're here. Life is short. What is our footprint going to be? It doesn't have to be a footprint that lasts for hundreds of thousands of years. It just has to make a difference in one life. So if we can each affect and impact that one life, they impact another. This isn't about look at us. This is about look at us. It's about, if we want harmony, it means accepting people where they are for who they are and accepting our part. It's not our job to save the world. It's just our job to help repair the world. Right, Marilyn Brown?
It is a Columbus Metropolitan Club tradition to have the audience ask questions. There's a microphone over there. Please make your way over there. We would ask that you say your name and not make any long editorial comments. Please just come over with a question. And I would like to do something that we hadn't planned. Would the Harmony Project members in the audience please stand and let us applaud you? One quick last question. People come to the microphone, please. One quick last question. Each of you, please. Your dream for the future of your organization in conjunction with the Harmony Project.
My dream is big. I don't even want to look at David, but So right
Yes.
now, well, it's done. So David always makes a joke about how he's going to take all the women out the prison into Burger King. So, but my dream for Harmony Project and our institution is to have an institution-wide choir. We have an institution with, my count last week was 2,534 women, and that's very sad. Women are the fastest growing prison population in this country because of addiction issues. And so I would love to have the choir kind of start in other dorms and throughout the entire institution. How
Done.
amazing could that be?
Right? Done. We could do that. That's our staff. So we just said, oh, okay.
You heard him, you heard him.
Right here, and it's on tape.
And I'm not gonna look at my team because Tiffany, my program director, will kill me, but David and I are already starting to work on our dream, and that is scaling the Harmony Project at all the schools that City Year serves so that we can have that support. And so as we grow, David's plan is to grow alongside of us as a after-school program.
Carol, the reality is this doesn't ever work well when I'm in funding meetings and people say, well, what's your 5-year and 10-year vision? I'm like, I don't know. I like to respond to what's going on in the world right around me. That's maybe part of the little a artist inside of me, that it's like, right now what's happening outside is what we respond to, because that's where the world is and that's how I like to kind of live. But thinking in terms of what is my dream is to find about 10 young people in their 20s with a lot of energy who want to do this, and I want to start training them so that they can start becoming the future and changing and morphing Harmony into whatever it's going to be under their leadership and under their direction. That's my dream.
Perfect. First question.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Fox. I'm with the Pizzuti Companies. I have a question primarily for David, but I'd love to hear from the other speakers as well. What one thing that, do you need today that you're not getting from the community that would help you do your work?
You want to say the word at the same time? Is it funding?
Yeah.
Ready? Funding. No. Well, but you said that we're not getting. Okay, we are. I mean, and I see so many faces in here who are faces of support. I mean, I could start naming them off, but then I would end up leaving people out. But you know who you are, and we couldn't do what we do without that. But to be more serious to your point, I think it's, for Harmony Project, I would say, a lack of awareness that it's not the David Brown show. So many people think that this is my thing and that this is what I do. Yeah, it is, just like you do your job. But there is no way in hell that this would happen if this was just the David Brown show. There's an entire full-time staff that work more hours than I do. For people to take a deeper look into what it takes for this to work and find out how can we buy into that? How can we be a part of that? Maybe we care about youth programming, so we want to get invested in this part of it. Maybe we care about recidivism rates and things like this, so we want to get invested in this part of it. But maybe taking a magnifying glass and looking a little more closely at that it's not just the big shiny concerts that make everybody feel good, it's the day in and day out management of 700 volunteers having to work 8 hours of volunteer service in a matter of 12 weeks. Do the math. Selling 6,000 tickets through an office, just the basics of running a business. So maybe people take a look at us from that perspective.
Thank you.
I have a question as well. I am suffering withdrawal from not going to weekly rehearsals. I'm wondering what the plans are upcoming for 2018.
Oh, for real? I mean, Carol, we just pulled off Nationwide Arena. Come on. I mean, there's going to be some exciting plans announced really soon, and one of the plans for the coming year is something that I'm a big believer in, and that is we really want to have a concert that is free, that is accessible to everyone, that nobody has to buy a ticket to, that everyone can come to, because it's not just enough for us to bus people in to Nationwide Arena or to a special event. We have to make the entire experience feel accessible. We can't bring people to Nationwide Arena with a free ticket and then those families and their children see other families and children who can't afford to go buy the popcorn and the soda, because then shame and stuff gets attached to people that way. We want everybody to have the exact same experience of an arts night so that everybody feels and has access to the exact same emotions and the exact same feelings.
My family attended the Nationwide concert, and they were blown away. I'm wondering about the families that you serve and the families that you serve. What are their reactions to their loved ones being part of the Harmony Project?
I don't think any parent of any woman that is incarcerated at my facility ever imagined that their their incarcerated children would have that experience. And so I know the next day when we went back to the unit to talk to the ladies, one of the young ladies had heard from her mom, and she saw all the posts on Facebook. So social media really allowed the families across the country to be able to see the concert. And she said, for the first time, I made my mom proud. So.
It is. It's a sense of pride, for the families of our students who may have struggled, the negative calls home, right, when they're telling your kids are acting up or aren't in school, to actually see them up there performing and making other people happy and smile. It's a sense of pride. I think every parent, regardless of their social and economic background, wants what's best, for their child, and to see their baby up there singing with this group. Yeah, I mean, you can't help but feel proud of the family that they're raising a child that even signed up, to do something like this.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
The question is the family of your 700 singers. Has there been reaction?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what I love to hear is, I love going through, sure, when there's this many people, there's the emails that come in that, of course, know how to do my job better than I do, that drive me crazy, and the staff is less laughing as I look over at them. But the emails that come in from people who are just so random, who say things like, I work for X company, and I have never been given an opportunity to get up and speak or lead in my company before because I'm so shy. And I sing with the choir now, and then my boss has noticed that I seem to have a stronger presence, and then my boss asked me to get up and make a presentation, and it's like, well, yeah, of course, because when you're sitting between strangers shoulder to shoulder in rehearsal, and I'm in your face going, sing as loud as you can, walls come down when you start sharing your voice next to total strangers all around you. It just happens. So I love hearing how the experience itself translates beyond the choir to be applicable to work, family, home, those types of things.
Andy?
Yes, hi, Andy Campbell. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. We hear a lot about the word collaboration in Columbus, and I know that's clearly part of what you're doing there. Are there people that are reaching out to you, or otherwise, either other artistic organizations that are interested in doing things with you, or organizations or causes that are looking for opportunities to work with Harmony Project? Oh, yeah.
If I could pass out our program book right now, just in the last 4 months, 47, how many service projects total? Was it 49 service projects with different agencies in the last 3-4 months. That's collaboration. In this last concert, we had Monica Kreidler's group, Momentum. We had Grassanine. Yes, I said Grassanine, for those of you who don't know what that is. It's Tom Krause's bluegrass country band. We had Peggy Kriadai, Executive Artistic Director of Opera Columbus. We had the Capital University World Drum Circle. A variety and a mixture of tastes and styles, because that's what we're trying to do, is mix it all up. We took Pete Townshend's song, Let My Love Open the Door, which is about as pop, vanilla as you can get, and we added a mariachi brass arrangement to it, where the choir sang the last half in Spanish, put a bluegrass band on it, and then added a samba drum line. And, but that's what it's all about, But yeah, in addition to these, to ORW and to City Year, our Commons and Harmony program, which is differently abled adults and men and women who've experienced homelessness, we partner weekly with ARC Industries, Goodwill, help me out here, Salvation Army, National Church Residences, Alvis, Godman Guild. I mean, so they say they're the ones who do all the work. I mean, so that's what Harmony for us is. It has a musical component because that was my background. But this could be replicated and exist in other communities. It doesn't have to look like it looks in Columbus, Ohio. It looks like it looks here because I happen to have that musical ability. But the ability to bring people together and forge partnerships, that's already happening in this community. So it could happen in others as well.
And you know, David, surprisingly, I got a lot of emails and calls from people who want to now volunteer at the prison. And our volunteer base has increased. We have almost 900 volunteers, many of them connected through Harmony Project. But after the concert and after every concert, or anytime we get some publicity of doing work with Harmony, we have people reach out to us who we never expect, so we thank you for that.
Well, and we want to thank, I don't know if they're in the room, but we want to make sure that we thank, because the way that people hear about this is when the local media shares the story. That's the only way that the story gets shared. And so the Dispatch has done a great service to us over the past few months, sharing our story, and 10 TV did as well. And we really appreciate the sharing of the story. And Mindy, I see you, so I know our time is up.
Just about up. I just want to make sure that everybody who wants an opportunity, because we're not singing today, everybody who wants an opportunity to see the songs, there are YouTube.
All right, so if you go to YouTube, and all you have to do is type in one word, all one word, Harmony Project Online. That is our channel. And on our channel, we have lots and lots and lots of videos, and pretty soon we're actually going to have a video from the most recent concert. So you'll be able to kind of see some of that online and be able to know what it's all about.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's forum. I certainly did. We encourage you to continue conversation with coffee and cookies in the back of the room. You can view and share today's forum and all of our forums on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide through the Ohio channel, and anytime on CMC's website via YouTube. So let's thank our sponsors, Carol McGuire, the Dispatch Media Group, Puffin Foundation West, and Event Marketing Strategies. And our speakers, Tasha Booker, Ronnie Burks, David Brown, and Carol Looper. And thanks to all of you for being here. We hope to see you early next year.